Oh, Denise, listen, it's lovely that you've decided to sit in for Al while she's away. And it's tremendous that you are an Olympic gold medal winning heptathlete. But the question is, can you handle the pace of the one show?
Well, I'll give it a go.
There's the brief.
OK. All done.
Good, impressive. Right, now we need to write the script.
How's that?
Right, looks like we're ready to go on air. Right, I'll tell you what, I'll race you to the studio. Think she's going to fit in just fine. You're going to have to give us some tips on that final bend.
What kept you in? It's all about technique.
Shattered. Goodness me. Anyway, hello and welcome to The One Show. Yes, and as Al is away in Uganda for comic relief, we have drafted in a super sporty sofa substitute. It's Denise Lewis. Are you looking forward to having some fun?
I am, thank you. I mean, it's going to be an exciting week.
Yeah?
And speaking of exciting weeks, these guys certainly had one. It started with a kiss.
Oh.
And ended with a...
As all good weeks do, please welcome from EastEnders Masood Shabnam and Kush, a.k.a. actors Nitin Ganatra, Raki Thakra and David Gadami. Good to see you all.
Great to have you.
Well, what a start to the show.
I mean, what a start. I didn't know Shabs had it in her.
She's quite an animal. I have to apologise to my family again. They keep seeing that scene and I keep saying it's done.
Yeah, OK, well, put out another warning because we're going to show it again later.
Oh,
all right,
okay.
And we'll talk about it more. But did you know that today is National Sicky Day? The day when more people bunk off work than any other, all right? Now, we do have it on good authority, Raki, that if it wasn't for a sick day, you probably wouldn't be talking to us now.
No, I called in sick at Top Man and auditioned for a BBC radio soap and got it, and that's the reason I carried on.
Did you ever tell your boss?
No, I just left.
Well, he knows now.
Sorry. It's been revealed.
Yeah, well, here is the thing, because if you have called in sick today and you want to prove to your boss that you are genuinely under the weather, then do please send us a photo with you feeling sorry for yourself, of course, and then we will either wish you well or tell you to get back to work tomorrow.
Or if you're prepared to admit you've skived off today, put on a disguise. Tell us about it. We promise we won't reveal your real name.
Oh, interesting disguises to come, I'm sure, after that. Now then, thousands of people marched to City Hall in London this weekend to protest about the lack of affordable housing, claiming that many residents are being priced out of their own communities.
Nick Wallace visited one of these housing battlegrounds.
When a big building project rubs up against unhappy locals, it's rarely pretty. And here, not far from Wembley Stadium, things have got very ugly indeed. Local people have taken to the streets to protest at council plans to force them to give up homes many have lived in for decades, to make way for developers.
Now leaseholders who've bought their homes are challenging Barnet Council's use of compulsory purchase powers to rebuild the West Hendon estate. They say it's tearing their community apart.
Jackie Coleman's lived here for nearly 20 years. Jackie, why are feelings running so high on this estate?
We were all promised that we could all come back, but now they've changed their plan and only about 200 will be allowed back onto this estate.
But doesn't this place need to be redeveloped? I mean, it's looking pretty shabby.
Well, we always knew it was going to be regenerated, but the word they're using now is redevelopment, which involves total demolition of the whole estate.
There are 596 properties here and 3 types of residents. Those who've bought their homes and who the council now want to buy out, secure tenants the council will have to rehouse, and temporary tenants who've been told they've no rights at all.
Hello Alex, how are you?
After 8 years here, temporary tenant Alex Finney is being moved away by the council. He had been hoping to stay.
What's it been like, having to move on from here?
A lot of stress, and I'm on antidepressants at the time. I can't sleep. You know, you need the basics in life, like somewhere to live.
His new flat's only 1.5 miles away, but the move fills him with fear.
I don't know anybody, or anything there, and I'll just be like, you know, out on a limb again.
Despite nearly quadrupling the number of homes on the estate, the new Barnet metropolitan development will almost halve the amount of social housing available. Current owner-occupiers have been told shared equity schemes are on offer so they can stay put, but that means getting a mortgage. Not easy if you're an OAP.
I've lived here since 1983 and I'm in my June, I'll be 86.
Adelaide bought her flat for £11,000. 30 years on, she's being offered less than half the cost of a new flat in the rebuilt estate.
You're being asked to buy a different property with the money they're going to give you from this home.
Yeah.
But the money they're going to give you for this
They've been
place...
nuts. They've won 407,000 for a two-bedroom place.
How much are they offering you for your place?
175.
What do you think of that?
Rubbish.
And she may have a point. Similar flats in the area sell for more than £300,000.
The council say you get a good price for your flat, you get to move into a brand new property in a shared equity deal, everyone's a winner.
How can they be a winner when, you know, they're offering just say under 200 grand for this, and to buy a place is a two-bedroom flat is 407 grand.
Where would I get a mortgage?
That's right.
At my age.
Adelaide needs a solution as building work's already begun. Richard Cornelius is the leader of Barnet Council.
You've really messed this up, haven't you? Regeneration is all about residents, and the residents are up in arms.
We want to get on with it, and this is the way to do it. The owner-occupiers are all getting shared equity in a new place. The secure tenants will all be housed on the estate as well, and the temporary people will be accommodated locally.
But the developers must be laughing into their sleeves. They've taken you for fools. 10% social housing.
I don't
They're
think
making
they have.
a fortune out of
I
this.
don't think they have. I'm sure they're making money out of it.
The residents say they're not getting the market value for their property.
The surveyors work that out. They know what these places are worth, and people are getting a new flat, and the equity they've got in their existing flat is going into the new one as shared equity.
Is that a fair deal?
Yes.
The public inquiry into the legality of Barnet's compulsory purchase orders isn't expected to publish its findings until after the general election. Meanwhile, for Adelaide, home's no longer a safe haven from the world outside.
How do you feel right now living in your home?
As if I'm in a prison. I want to see my days out here. I don't want to go anywhere else.
Well, you've got to feel for Adelaide there, but Nick joins us here. The lack of affordable housing, it's not just a problem in West Hendon, it's happening all over the country.
That's right, and affordable housing is all relative. Adelaide is being offered an amount of money that would buy her something probably a lot bigger elsewhere in the country, but why should she have to move at her age?
Yeah.
And I think housing, or affordable housing, we need to be clear exactly what it is. It is typically housing stock which is managed by a housing association or a council and made available to people who can't afford to buy or rent at full market rates. And there is a huge demand for it, as you might expect. But at the moment, only 1 in 5 of the country's largest councils are actually meeting their own affordable housing provision targets.
Well, this is the point, because some developers, even though they've got the contract, are then reducing the quarter of affordable housing, aren't they?
Yeah.
I mean, how can that be? How can they do that?
A developer would typically go to a council, as many did during the last recession, and say, the market's changed, we've crunched the numbers, and we can no longer make a decent profit if we build the same number of affordable homes that we originally said we would. Now, this number crunching process is known as a financial viability statement, and the problem is with these statements is that they're often not made public because the developers say they contain commercially sensitive information. Now, for campaigners, this is a really big issue because they say that these figures therefore cannot be subjected to scrutiny by outside agencies. And even though the councils do get to see the figures, sometimes the councils don't actually have the resources to challenge them properly. And I mean, a council can walk away from a developer if they say, we don't want to build these affordable homes, but then they run the risk of the developer saying, right, well, in that case, we're not taking part in the project at all.
But there's a lot of, obviously, negative cases, but there must be some places where there are some positive examples that this is actually working, that they are meeting their targets?
There are plenty around the country. There's a place in Totnes and Devon called Culverdale Road, which has won an award, actually, for its eco-friendly and sustainable approach to affordable housing. Also, in Merthyr Tydfil, there was an old building which was known as Vulcan Road, and this had fallen into some disrepair. A developer came in, made it full of affordable housing, which really made the local community delighted. But that's on a completely different scale to what's going on in West Hendon.
And plus, it's the numbers game as
well.
Well,
the truth is, every area and every council is going to have to deal with different things when it comes to the conflicting interests that they have to balance.
Nick, as always, thanks ever so much indeed. See you soon. Now, the Scottish Government has just announced a block on fracking pending an inquiry into environmental and health implications.
But decades before anyone had even heard of fracking, the search for shale oil had already made its mark on the Scottish landscape. Here's Marty to explain.
Extracting fuel from shale deposits is high on the news agenda.
Fracking isn't popular. These protesters near a test drilling site in Salford are fighting eviction.
But using shale as a source of fuel isn't new. Scientists were aware that deposits here in West Lothian in Scotland harboured huge quantities of energy as long ago as the 19th century. They actually sparked an oil boom. This striking man-made landscape is about all that's left of it.
I'm on top of what's known as a Bing, a mountain made from the waste products of Scotland's industrial history. Now, Scotland is well known for its North Sea oil, but this is evidence of Scotland's original oil boom. This one is very much on dry land.
It all happened thanks to a pioneering chemist called James Young. In the 1860s, he became an oil baron when he took oil shale mined locally and turned it into black gold in huge factories using a procedure called retorting.
This is oil shale. It's made when silt and mud are laid down along with a load of organic matter, so stuff like algae. And then over millions of years, it's squashed, which turns it into this rock. But all that organic matter, the algae, turns into oil that's distributed throughout the oil shale. So to get it out, what you need to do is you crush it up like this, and then you heat it up. And what's going to happen is the oil turns into vapours. It turns into a gas, which begins to come off. And look, you can see it started to come off. If I give that a smell, well, it smells like when they're laying a road. Well, that's tar. It's essentially what we've got. And if you take the gases that are coming off this and allow them to condense, what you end up with is this, crude oil. But to get from this to this, you really need temperatures way in excess of 1,000 degrees and masses and masses and masses of crunched up oil shale.
Perfecting this process meant that by 1912, Scotland's oil shale industry amounted to 2% of the total world oil production. And the bings are decades worth of crushed and baked oil shale, piled up to 90 metres high. They're reminders that this was a large-scale industry, employing thousands of people from local villages. Tony Kelly worked in the mines.
It was empty cart going in, and you filled it, and you pushed it back out again, and brought in another cart, filled it, taken it back out, and it was about 21 tonne a day.
This was tough, manual work, with minimal amounts of machinery.
You knew you had done a day's work, because your boots were white with sweat when you came home.
And it was dangerous work too, using explosives to blow the shale seam apart.
Just like as if you were lighting a fire lighter at Guy Fawkes. Then you have to run.
Run?
Run, out the road.
But the oil shale industry is a thing of the past. It closed in 1962. The problem was cheap competition, largely from Middle Eastern oil extracted straight out of the ground.
It was a liquid oil that was held in big reservoirs deep beneath the surface. And if you could find those reservoirs, drill into them, it saved you all the problem and expense and difficulty of retorting the shale oil, which they had done in Scotland before.
Was there a legacy then from all this?
Yes, about the end of the shale oil industry in Scotland was the beginning of discoveries of natural gas and oil in the North Sea. And so the legacy of understanding the oil business and a pioneering, innovative spirit as to how to produce and how to work with oil was what came from the Scottish oil shale industry.
And we also have the bings. Some of them have been removed for use as hardcore in road construction. The ones that remain are a reminder of what once was and might be again.
Well, on we go then from West Lothian to EastEnders. I was expecting some duffs there, but they didn't. Anyway, now on Friday, Shabnam finally revealed the dark secret that she's been carrying since arriving back in Walford a year ago. Now, Raki, for those that haven't seen yet, without too many spoilers, bring us up to date.
Oh, well, if no one's seen it, then stop listening now. But on Thursday night, she revealed to Stacey that she has a daughter that she left on a doorstep.
Well, you couldn't believe this, could you, Denise?
I nearly fell off my chair.
More shocking than the kiss?
Yes.
More shocking than the
Yes. Because she's quite a prickly character, isn't she? And reserved. That was certainly... I didn't see that coming.
Well, I think it's a great way to, you know, say that you just don't know who's sitting next to you, really, do you? You don't know anything about anyone. And then on Friday, the big cliffhanger was that the baby is Dean's.
Oh, yes.
That was really good. That was proper.
You should be on the show.
Yeah. Dean's.
That was a good one.
Gosh, goodness. Well, and this whole kiss thing, I mean, you were a little bit embarrassed, weren't you, at the start of the show? Let's now... that was the still. Let's show the moving footage.
I mean...
Sorry.
It does go on rather long. Actually, you pounced on him. Shabs pounced on him.
It's an attack. It was an attack, wasn't it?
Yeah.
What? How do you feel watching that back?
How do you feel
How do I
watching
feel?
that?
Yeah, how do you feel?
But it's you. You're the one that attacked me.
How did it feel being attacked?
I suppose it was as out of the blue for Kush as it was for the audience. They didn't expect that from her, like you say.
Do you practice something like that?
Yeah, do you rehearse?
Yeah.
I did offer, she said no.
But it's great when they write things
They
that
both
are out
practiced
of
on
character.
me. Both of them individually knocked on my door and said, listen, I've got this kissing scene with Raki. I need someone to practice on. So they both came individually and practiced on me, which was great.
Did you do the whole bringing the mints to work thing and the chewing gum and all that?
Yeah. You do that. You do it subtly, just in case she sees.
Just before the thing, yeah.
Well, it doesn't stop. Tonight, obviously, it's on 8 o'clock tonight, and let's just have a lovely little moment from tonight's episode. Here we go.
You are just like your daddy. Yeah, you are. You're always right, always perfect. Is it any wonder that me and Tam will have such a hard time living up to you two?
Not perfect.
You are. You're my little girl. And you will always be perfect to me.
I know, not a dry eye in the house, but it was such a nice moment, a real father and daughter scene, which we'd never seen before.
Well, yeah, no, and we enjoyed it. We really, you know, we don't get those scenes very often. We haven't had them for a while. And so, you know, when we do get those intimate scenes where we can really engage in what we're saying and have a true heartfelt conversation, and Raki's so easy to work with, we just clicked on the very first take. It was go. So that cuts out half. It's not work then. It becomes being in the moment together, and it went really well, that scene.
But that look on your face at the end. I mean, you obviously hadn't seen Friday's episode.
Well, you know what, Masood's only just found out that his son's gay, so that happened about 3 years ago, so Masood's pretty oblivious to what's going on.
Now, this whole live week that we've seen trailed across the BBC, this is from February the 17th, with live elements, and then the Friday night. I mean, how do you all feel about this live style of EastEnders?
Well, it's a really brave thing for a show like EastEnders to do, because it's got a huge cast. It's not really designed for live episodes, so that's even more exciting. So it becomes a huge technical achievement. On top of that, it takes actors out of their comfort zone. It makes them very jumpy, so there's not to be any caffeine on set that day. But like all of us, we were saying earlier on, that and actually none of us know what's going on. It's all been kept under wraps.
Absolutely.
It's really...
And it's great. We get to do things as a company, which is great. We don't always get to do that. You do little scenes with the same actors usually, but you do doing it all together like a big theatre group, and it's
Mm.
like we're all in it together.
It's quite nice that the audience, the actors for this one, everybody's in the same boat.
Yeah.
But there we are. Now, the Masouds represent a modern British Asian family, albeit one with a bit more drama than most.
And Alistair McGowan has been to see how decades of integration have given UK's Asian community a unique voice.
The way we speak can tell us a great deal about where we're from.
Matt Baker may have left the northeast for the bright lights of the One Show studio, but his Durham roots are still there for everyone to hear. And Roy Hodgson has lived and managed football teams all over the world, but is still very much Croydon through and through.
But what happens when members of a community come to live in Britain speaking another language? What does their use of English tell us about their community's experiences over time?
70 years ago, Southall was largely a white working-class community. Then labour shortages after the war led to Commonwealth citizens being allowed into Britain without restriction.
Thousands of immigrants came to Southall in the 50s, 60s and 70s, initially attracted by cheap housing, and then attracted by the presence of people from their own ethnic background. They faced significant levels of racism, partly because they spoke very differently from the indigenous British population.
She calling name to me, you bloody Indian, you go back to your own country, why you live here, you know.
Restaurant owner Dilawa Chowdhury, who was born in Southall, is a good example of how accents have changed. Listen to him speak to an Asian member of staff.
Plenty ghee, but must be very dry. No too much oil sitting on the plate, then people's complaining me.
But when he talks to me, Dilawa sounds completely different.
It's one of those scenarios, horses for courses. I have an accent which I'm adaptable to all. So anybody who comes along, right, I have to engage with them and speak with them in an English which brings down all the barriers, and yet it's more welcoming and it's more understanding for them.
Devyani Sharma from Queen Mary University of London has researched this switching of accents. It's a skill immigrants use to counter racism but maintain links with their Asian heritage.
They had to survive to some extent and sound British on the one hand. On the other hand, they were going into their father's businesses and maintaining a lot of traditional practices. They had a need and a desire to fit into more than one quite separate community.
Very important, make nice one, and no burn this one, because people eat, they make home as well.
What are the sounds that are very difficult to neutralise, if you like?
So the tip of the tongue is curled further back in the mouth, and so instead of t, where your tongue is near the front of the mouth, you say t or d.
So we're talking the difference between let's talk turkey and let's talk turkey.
That's right.
Yeah, it's called bud English.
Bud English.
Bud English, you know. But to do, but you doing, but you want to do.
Southall now has one of the highest populations of people with a South Asian background in London. And this change has been matched by an accent change that springs from a new British Asian self-confidence. Young men like former trainee city trader Karan Kapoor no longer feel a need to have two separate identities and accents.
My father worked out of London, so he was surrounded mainly by non-Asians, and his accent would fluctuate. So he'd be on the phone to work, and you'd know straight away, purely because his accent would be completely different.
When you were working as a city trader in the City of London, did you change your accent there at all?
I didn't know. It stayed exactly the same. Exactly the same. I think I was very comfortable in the way I spoke. So even talking to strangers or in a working environment, I just didn't change.
By the time we get to Karan's age group, there's a kind of single style that's developed and matured in a way which is British Asian. He sounds like a Londoner, but he has markers of having an Asian heritage, just quite subtle ones.
Karan's accent, a mix of a local accent with a subtle Asian influence, is typical of a change in Asian speech right across Britain. It's resulted in accents like Yorkshire Asian, Brummie Asian, and even a distinct accent called Glaswegian.
Makes it very tricky for me as an impressionist when an Asian accent is mixed with a British accent. I mean, you know, somebody like Amir Khan in Bolton, you know, when he's talking about, I knocked him out. I mean, he hit me, but I hit him. I knocked him out. It's very hard to do. Seeing how the accent of the people here in Southall has changed and changed again over the past 70 years has been fascinating. It shows how the way that we speak, or the way that we choose to speak, can be affected by a whole series of factors, and sometimes reflects the story of a whole community.
Literally, we were just talking there. Do you find yourself putting on different accents depending on Who are you talking to? Members of the family?
Yeah, I don't notice it when I'm doing it. I've had friends notice it when I've been on the phone to my dad or something, and I speak Gujarati, so I'm saying to my dad, Papa John, kale un party ma jawan. And my mates are going, why are you saying party in an Indian accent? Party? So I'm not going to say Papa un party ma jawan. It's really weird. You start saying English words in an Indian accent.
Well, as we were saying earlier on today, it's National Sicky Day, the day when more British workers take off a day from work than any other. So to find out more, here's Anita Rani.
I'm really sorry, I can't come in. The thing is, I've got a really, really bad cough.
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
OK.
Great.
So, OK, fine. Well, let's hear from Giles.
Hello, this is Giles. I don't think I can make it today. I've got a cold.
Angelica?
Yeah, hello?
Hello?
I feel terrible.
Oh, I think it's the end.
Sorry, 1 second.
It's just a cough and I'm being sick. Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah, my dog ate my work pants. Yeah, I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to come in.
That was really good.
With freezing temperatures, commuting in the dark, and the long wait until the next holiday, thousands of workers have been found to take the first Monday in February off work.
But perhaps not for long. Peter Moody heads up a 24-hour absence assist team, which helps employers single out the sinners from the saints. Peter, how does the absence assist scheme work?
We sign up an employer to that scheme. Their employees will dial our absence assist number, explain their absence, how long they're likely to be off. We follow it up with an agreed time for a callback, and the idea will be to manage that absence and get them back to work as fast as possible.
And what's the reason for the absence?
Has anybody else in your family been sick at all or in the house?
The cost to the economy is something like £37 million, and there's something like 359,000 members of staff across the board absent on any one day, so there's clearly a big problem.
Does a scheme like this really work?
I think it definitely works. I think it's great for employers and employees because this way there's a formal procedure in place, there's an extra step, there's more of a deterrent that'll prevent them from reporting an absence. We've seen the number of absences reduce dramatically the longer that a client's with us.
Last year I'd probably say I pulled about 6.
You want a just lazy day in,
Yeah.
so ring up, say you're sick, or say someone's died or something.
Probably pulled that many, I can't remember which one.
I can honestly tell you that never in the whole of my life I've ever done that.
I feel like sometimes it's necessary if you're not in the right mood or frame of mind to do something.
I don't admire sickies, I think they're vile and I think they're terrible.
But what about if you are genuinely sick and need that essential duvet day?
A lot of people think that sickness absence is the big cost to the UK economy, and certainly it is costly. But presenteeism is double the cost of absenteeism. That's what research shows. Now, presenteeism is when you're feeling ill, but you go to work. And the reason you're doing it is because you're feeling job insecure, you have to show face time. And that really could be very detrimental to the economy because you're contributing no added value. If we allowed people, for example, to call up and have mental health days where they just took a day off from time to time when they need it, like Sweden does, I think it would help our economy.
I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm just going to the hospital just now.
I'm really unwell today. I've been sick all night long and I've had no sleep.
I'll ring you later and let you know I am for tomorrow. I've been practicing.
Yeah. Brilliant. Absolutely tremendous. Now, earlier on, we asked you to send in photos of yourselves if you had thrown a sickie today, and you haven't disappointed. Go on, Denise, which one do you
Right,
like?
we've got this one. She looks all comfortable, doesn't she? And this is Judy Garrett Jenkins' first sick day in over a year.
Here we are in February.
Yeah, exactly.
This is Josh, look. Oh, he got sent home from Skill today, but he's now snuggled up watching the One Show. Josh, get well soon. You're back at Skill tomorrow, mate.
Genuinely sick. Sean, look at him, wishing Tina to get back.
He looks very sick, this fella.
Listen, that's all we've got time for tonight. A big thanks to Nitin, to Raki and to David. EastEnders is on, of course, at 8 o'clock.
Yeah, join us and comedian Ross Noble at 7 tomorrow. Bye for now.
Tim Wilkie, get back to work. See you tomorrow.
Get it behind